We're just going to share some of the things that have been on our heart lately. This is an open, candid, transparent conversation. And so I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot of value from it.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. I think, as we stand at the threshold of a new year, many of us do tend to reflect, and it's a time of renewal, new seasons. And so with all of that, there's the air, like a lot of potential for new changes. And just new ways to redefine what a lot of these important values in our life mean. So I'm so excited, especially to talk to you about freedom. As some of you may know, that I first met Kat at an event that she hosted called Unleash Your Freedom. And so I feel like you're a true seeker and expert in this pursuit. And so I am really excited to learn more about what you believe about it.
Freedom and fulfillment. The reason we wanted to put those two words together for this conversation is that when I asked Ray what was on her heart for this year, fulfillment just kept coming up, the word fulfillment. And we realized that we both do different types of work, but we have a lot of crossover, and helping people achieve true fulfillment and meaning is very aligned with freedom. And so really excited to have this conversation with you, Ray.
Yeah, beautiful. So without further ado, let's dive into it. I mean, how would you describe, say, the significance of a new year when it comes to personal freedom? Say, do you look at the previous year? Do you have a vision for the new year? I'd love to know what processes and insights you have that can also like empower listeners to map out their year.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes around on social media at this time of year, isn't there? Where there's a lot of talk about don't set resolutions and don't
Yeah.
do this and don't do that. And I think you and I, Ray, we're very much like, what are the benefits of different things and what works for each individual, as opposed to one size fits all and boxing it all together. So everyone has different processes they go through. Some people don't want to look at it. They just think, well, the calendar just changes. Why do we have to even think differently just because it's a new year? My personal philosophy is that, the way that time is set up in our society, in our culture, lends itself to moments of reset. And there is a collective energy that happens at a new year that we can kind of ride the wave of. And so New Year is one of my favorite times of year. I love the freshness. I love the reset feeling. And I have a process that I've refined over many years. I've been, I guess, reviewing my years for a long time. I've always written a blog on that kind of final week of December, and I have a whole process that I go through. I look through my phone and I look at everything I've done. I just personally love that process. That's not for everybody. Some people, they don't want to do that. But I really like what Tim Ferriss says about, he was interviewed once and they said to him, what's your key to success? And he said, tracking, which kind of surprised me. But when you think about this philosophy that happiness, we can't have happiness without progress, I believe that tracking is a real key. And so I track and measure and I look at things and gather and have a process where I talk to multiple people in December, multiple conversations, friends, partner, go to the beach, all different environments where I start mulling over my vision for the following year. It's a process. It's not a sit down once and do it. It takes a few weeks. And then I have a whole bunch of questions that I answer.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Yeah. And it seems like you're very thorough and comprehensive in that. And this way, I think whatever plan or whatever goals you have in the new year, they become more embedded. There's more at stake because there's such a deep reflection of the year and what you want moving forward. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think the reason I do it, I didn't do it for years, but becoming more mindful and becoming more, hey, if my life's worth living, like Jim Rohn says, if your life's worth living, it's worth recording. And so he always says, write things down, write down what you've been doing, keep track, because our memory, we do forget. We're bombarded with so many things. So writing things down and reflecting and actually celebrating those things. I used to just rush into the new year. I couldn't wait to reset my new goals. But
Yeah.
I do think that really looking back to look forward has helped me a lot. Like it's really practically shown me the gain rather than focusing on the gap between where I am and where I want to be. That's
That's beautifully said. Yeah, I love that. Um, and something that I want to just expand on a little bit, which is a lot of people set resolutions as like a to-do list or like things that they have to do. I also want to expand on creating a vision beyond, say, resolutions or goals, right? So how does crafting a vision, say, beyond a to-do list, how can that help them truly align with their desires for more freedom in their life?
I'd really love to hear your thoughts on vision and the difference between them and why a vision is more powerful. But in terms of, for me personally, I like to decide who I want to be and allow that identity to filter down. So the vision of the person that I'm going towards, a new year is like a reset. What do I want for this year? When I was talking about the way time's set up, I set my goals annually, but also quarterly, monthly, and then what's my overall 3 goals for the week and then 3 for the day. So it's kind of, from that big picture perspective coming back in. So solutions, I find a lot of people like, this is my one and only shot. And if I miss it, I'll give up until next year. It's got that mentality attached, whereas a vision is a lot more long-term, big picture. You know where you're heading. Like for me, I've got my ultimate vision, which is, decades into the future that I work back from rather than just 1 year.
Stunning. Yeah, I love that. And again, feel free to share as much or as little as you would like. But what is that sort of bigger anchor that you have that you envision, say decades into the future, which then drives and inspires you today?
Uh, Briefly, I did an activity in a coaching course once where they said, imagine you're 75 years old, you're in a beautiful home, you're being interviewed, and someone says to you, what's it like being such a successful? And they get you to answer that.
Yes.
Like what comes into your mind? And so they asked 5 times. And so those 5 things that I said is basically my vision. It's who am I at 75, which is advisor and speaker and mentor and things that I'm doing now, but to a much greater extent. So it's like, if that's my vision where I'm heading, then I need to get better at writing today. Because author was one of them. I need to get better at speaking today. What can I do today to get on camera and share? What can I do today to write just something? And so it just, that big vision kind of drives my actions today. What about you, Ray? I want to hear about
Beautiful.
your vision.
I feel like the vision actually serves as a greater guiding presence in my life than say actual very sort of little goals. I know specific goals, smart goals. We all know about smart goals. But I feel like, and I think you and I have spoken about this before, this practice of anchoring our identity can be a really great guide in our day-to-day practices. So what do I mean by that? If I tell myself that I am someone who's free, I am someone who's fulfilled, there are questions that I can ask on a day-to-day basis about what that means and looks like. So a person who's fulfilled, what do they say to themselves? How do they treat other people? What do they say yes to? What do they say no to? What do they eat? How do they spend their time? What brings them joy? I feel like just anchoring your identity into something that genuinely fulfills you or makes you feel free, is going to give you an enormous amount of guidance every day. So what that also saves you from is to do a lot of overthinking and overcorrection, right? Being like, am I doing the 12 things that I said I was gonna do? Oh God, I'm only doing 7 of them. What about the other 5? Like instead of having a very sort of mental or cerebral back and forth all the time about your goals, I think anchoring in an identity personally helps me a lot in terms of making decisions and choices, small and big, in a day-to-day capacity.
Right. Yes. And what you said about fulfillment and the questions you ask yourself and the things that you say based on fulfillment, I'd love to know, like, because obviously the meaning we give things is so important, right? So for
Yes.
fulfillment to be such a strong word for you, you've obviously done a lot of thinking about the word and what it means to you. So I'd love to know, like, what does fulfillment mean to you?
Yeah. Again, I feel like you and I have touched on this briefly. I often talk about that inner and outer alignment, that notion of your life being a reflection of who you are on the inside and out, right? I feel like that kind of um, integration is very important because there's no split, right? Who you are in here is reflected on the choices and the businesses and the relationships that you have on the outside. And so the reason, for example, I make that distinction between, say, success, being successful, or even being like achieving things, and having fulfillment in its stead is because it requires both success and happiness, or both achievement and authenticity, right, to be fulfilled. You cannot have one and be fulfilled. There's often an involvement that you make room for different things to create something more enriching, more whole. It's a greater exploration of who you are and what adds more meaning to your life. So I think that's probably why I really prioritize it. And again, in my work, I encourage my clients to prioritize that, so that if they are making a business decision about what to do with a company or how to resolve a conflict, they are keeping those personal values in mind. And I think that leads to better decision making in the long run.
Wow, so well said, Ray. That's so beautiful. And I imagine that the work that you do with your clients, you're helping them navigate what's important to them and their values and making sure they're aligning their decisions with their values. And so it's starting with the ultimate vision and moving their way down from it. What are some of the questions that you ask yourself or ask your clients to really determine what's fulfilling for them?
Yeah, I feel like, we begin with the end in mind. We often don't know the end in mind, but like you said, whether it's a picture of how you'd like to feel in the future, how you'd like to feel a few years from now, and to actually move backwards from that, I think is really important. Because I think when we are very focused on the anxieties and worries of the present, it can really cloud our vision or even our judgments about what's going to be important 5, 10, 20 years from now, right? Sometimes, for example, I have clients, say, who work in finance, so they might have a very competitive nature. So if they're in the middle of a conflict, they might not want to let certain things go. And then you remind them, it's like, where do you want to be in a year's time or 2 years' time? Or do you really like, what could you let go of? Or the flip side is, what do you really need to fight for here? So like looking ahead or casting a wider net often creates a very immediate shift in perspective or thinking. And I feel like it makes the decision-making process easier, because sometimes people get really confused and they get very adamant that no, this is what I want. This is what the outcome needs to be. But then when they have a bigger perspective about the trajectory of their life, not only does making another decision become easier, they realize that that's what they wanted, all along. And so
Right.
that can be kind of a bit like a bit of a revelation, being like, oh, I actually don't want this. I want something else. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this thing that I've like been holding on to with so much adamance, I actually don't want this. And that can be a moment of big relief, right? So
Yeah.
that they're aligned.
Yes, it reminds me of this whole thing of like your higher self making decisions as opposed to your lower self. And I think sometimes when we go into anxiety, I love the way you described it as clouds, because it is like you get clouded. And so you're not really seeing clearly. And that's what we as coaches do, right? We lift people up above the clouds, and then we go back down in, but we come up first,
Yeah.
vision. Let's see this clearly is this going to matter in 1, 2, 3 years? Is this taking you towards that bigger vision, right? And then sometimes when we're so focused here, we forget all of this over here, because we're just so consumed with that one problem. I saw a meme the other day, and it was like this big circle, and it was like someone's life, and then there's a tiny dot, like everything you know about it, and it's like there's so much going on in someone's life. And that was more talking about don't judge someone because there's so much going on, but I think it applies to ourselves as well, right? There's so much going on in our life, and then one little thing can consume our energy if we let it. So coming to, hey, what's fulfilling? What's true freedom? What are your values? What are the actions that are actually going to take you back in that alignment, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? I think, if we were to summarize this whole process, it's about adopting a long-term thinking and asking questions that prompt a level of planning and a deeper understanding of what they want their life to look like. And so part of that also, apart from the vision and the values and the purpose of their life, is to also prioritize their well-being, right? Which is, how do you plan to stay healthy physically and mentally? In what way can you cultivate this goal while being healthy long term? If you prioritize happiness, how can we strive towards this goal in a way that's also going to keep your marriage and your relationship in a way that's fulfilling? So that involves a very, very different level of strategy, if you're bringing in these other pillars that are important to them. If they want to learn and grow about certain things, if you say, hey, you want new skills or knowledge, if you want these skills in the next 10 years, how do you want to be approaching this problem right now?
Yeah.
Right? So it just leads to a very, very different kind of planning when you're like bringing those other factors into play. And then, you have a different level of impact and different kind of ways to responding to everything from time to resources and to change as well.
Right. Yeah. And I love it. I love that. And how do I achieve X goal? And because I think the three main things that I work with people on with their mindset, first is limiting beliefs, things that we're saying that we think to be true. We all have them. Trapped emotions. So just things stuck in our body and from our past. But the third one is conflicting values. And it's like, I want this thing, but this is in the way, So I was talking to a lady this week that said, I don't really want to make much money. And so I was like, okay, are you happy with that decision? And let's talk about why, and just make sure that you're happy with, is that the final bottom line? It's a story she's told herself for a long time, but as we unpacked it, it was like, why? Let's just really go into why you don't want to make money. Is it fear? Is there? And then it came down to, I want to make more money, but I don't want the responsibility, the hard work, the losing my well-being, right? Which is what you were saying, like that well-being piece. So how do I achieve my goals and keep my well-being, my marriage, my health? Like, porque no los dos? We talk about that a lot, right? I want to have both. And then asking questions around, how do I have both, rather than I have to have this or this. How do you navigate that with your clients? Do you see that popping up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I will come back to that in a second. I just want to ask you a follow-up question, which is, a lot of the times people will realize that, they're just borrowing words from other people. Maybe they heard from somewhere else that it's not good to make a lot of money, or that it's not possible to have it all, right? Where you have to sacrifice one to have another. Like, we are constantly flooded with external language, influences, criticism, cynicism. How can an individual be free thinking and sort of assert that their own way of thinking as they sort of receive language from other people, to still create a life that's aligned with their true selves, do you feel?
Oh, there's so many directions I could take this, but the first thing that comes to mind is, as women particularly, we're we're often gatherers, right? We're gatherers of information and data and knowledge, and we read a lot and we listen to a lot and we have a lot of conversations. And so I've been talking about this a lot this week, actually, with my clients, is how do we be opinionated? Like, how do we form our own opinion when we actually want to make smart choices? Like, we don't want to say, this is the only way, because often people who aren't very successful, they are so adamant that they're right and they're not open-minded. So how do we have that open-mindedness to look at things from that perspective of there's advantages to this and there's advantages to this, rather than this is the only way?
Yes.
But I do think for me, there's got to be a point where I've asked my close, trusted inner circle. I get their wisdom, and I have to really sit with myself and say what is right for you, because no one can tell you that except yourself. And so there's a real permission piece of, okay, I've done everything I can to gather and to seek wise counsel and to make sure that this is going to be, I'm well informed, right? But
Yes.
at the end of the day, I get to think whatever I want and I get to be free in my thinking. It's the only thing we truly have control of, is the way that we think.
Yes. I love that you said that, which is, it's like stand guard, or like sort of be wary, right? Like, not to sort of put pressure on that. It's like, make sure you protect what you think and what you feel and what you believe. Because, especially like sometimes when someone is empathetic or they care about other people, you might be in an environment that's negative, and then you'll come back and you'll start to feel a bit depleted, or you'll start to, repeat things that they may have said about what's not possible or what won't work. And sometimes if you're not careful, you'll start to think that's what you think and that's what you believe.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to be like, oh, that's actually not me. I've just been around this person who keeps telling me it's not possible.
Yes, we've got
Hold on a
to
second. I actually don't think that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because we love connection and building rapport, sometimes we do have to build rapport rather than, creating conflict in that situation.
Yes.
But I think as soon as we remove ourselves, I talk about guarding your ears and eyes, like guard your eye and ear gates. They're like gates to your soul. How do we make sure that we're influenced by the things that are going to empower us to be more fulfilled, to have more freedom? And I love how, when I mentioned before about be opinionated, it's often in our society like, oh, she's so opinionated, as a really negative thing. So I don't mean, my way's the only way. That's not what I mean by opinionated. I was listening to Napoleon Hill. He's got this old classic called Success Habits, and he talks about most opinions are just opinions and they're just worthless. He just says it as it is. Like, he's got that classic language of they're just good for nothing, and most of them are a waste of time, but it's have you got the evidence, whether that's practical data, facts, or or whether it's like a check in your gut, that this just does not feel right to me, and so I'm free to decide to think that that's just not for me. That's for you, but yeah.
Beautiful. So just it's almost like having boundaries at many different junctures, right? So one here, one here, one here, right? Just to filter, what is true of you versus, the thinking, the modalities, the ways of thinking about life, possibilities, your potential that other people feed you.
Oh, that's really good. And I love that word potential, because no one knows our potential.
Yes.
No one has any idea how much potential you have. You look at these people that do amazing feats in their 80s and 90s. And I was talking to a lady about it this week. She said, oh, my age groups, they're a lot older, and I just don't think that they can make that kind of money. And I just remember pausing her and just saying, do you believe that it's possible that some people have made money at that age? Oh, yeah, of course. Well, maybe there is a possibility that there's a potential for this person if they want to do that.
You want to do it? Yeah. You don't know. Yeah, we don't know. That's beautiful. Just remaining open. Yeah. To what human beings can create, because you're right, like, there's the sky really is the limit. Yeah, human beings are capable of so much, and it does us a huge disservice, right, to borrow that limitation from someone else and to place it upon ourselves.
borrow. Ooh.
Yeah, no, we don't want that. Yeah.
Ray, what are some of the questions that you ask yourself to kind of check in to make sure that you're in fulfillment? Do you have some go-tos?
I have a couple, I really ask myself, it's like gratitude is a big part of uh being in a state where I can see, right? What has fulfilled me in the past, what brings me joy. So I think having that practice of gratitude is very important to train yourself to know when you are fulfilled. So I often start the day, or even before a day, I often go, you know what? I thank the day for whatever good things will happen today. So it's like even before things have happened, I can see things as working in my favor, or even if something that doesn't go as planned, I can train myself to think what's good about a situation and how it's actually bringing me closer to what I do want.
Mm.
So that framing is really important. Um, and I also just ask myself, it's, how are you feeling? What's important to you today? What do you need? Who do you want to be? And the why is a big part. It's like, why does it matter? Why do you care? Why does this matter? Like it's so that you break your pattern instead of having 1,000 shoulds that you should do something that you're often interrupting yourself to just ask, why does it matter? Who cares if you do it or if you don't do it? And if you can come up with something compelling, like this is important to me, this is who I am, I love them, I care about them, I want to serve them. I think the why is often a great pull, right? It's a great way to add a lot of emotional impact to what you're doing and why it's fulfilling.
Wow, so many gems in that. Those of you watching, I recommend rewinding that piece and just listening to that again and absorbing everything Ray just said, because those were mic drop moments. I love the why is a great pull. I love your questions. There's so many things I want to say. I know we're about to tie this up, but a question I've been asking lately related to the gratitude is, what's good about this? No matter how
Yeah.
bad it is. And something happened in last month. And I wrote down 10 reasons. The first time I asked that question, zero. Nothing's good about this. This is terrible. We catastrophize. And I wrote down 10 things. I was like, wow, it is just about reframing and going, that was meant to happen for whatever reason I don't understand, but I can
Mhm.
look for good. I can look for some good in it. And the other
Absolutely.
thing I loved is when you said a state where I can see. And
Yeah.
yeah, when I think about that anxiety clouding the vision, gratitude does lift us above it where things are more clear. Every day I've been just waking up and writing here and just like, I feel like it gives so much clarity, and it's so simple to just write something down, but the difference that it makes is so
Yeah.
powerful.
Absolutely. And look, we're all human. We all have heartbreak. We all get disappointed. And sometimes when we're in those states, it's like, we have tender hearts. We cannot, it sort of eclipses, right? Our ability to see some of the other good things that have happened, or how this moment of heartbreak is actually going to lead us to something more wonderful. So it's like, have a lot of compassion, because we do get clouded, and it does sort of come over. But if you in that moment, if you acknowledge that there's a greater truth, there's a greater gift being like also being presented to you, not just the pain, the pain and
Yeah.
the gift, like you were saying, the business and the relationship, the success and the health. If you can see that there's something else being given to you apart from what hurts or what's hard, you will see that it is going to point you to ultimately what's truer for you.
Yes, yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing so many beautiful gems today. For those of you that are watching, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts, what's come up for you. Does anything stand out to you? Are there any actions that you'd like to take based on what you heard? This is obviously a conversation, but we do want it to be real, and we want it to be helpful for you in your everyday life and not just be some more interesting information that's out there. So please do comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your voice. And is there anything else you want to say, Ray, before we finish up?
I'm just so grateful that you and I are having this conversation. Thank you. I've learned so much today just about commitment and being true to yourself and prioritizing freedom and having a vision and goal setting. So thank you for diving deeper. You know, I know you teach so much, but it's also really beautiful to see your beliefs about all of the things that you teach. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, Ray. I've loved this conversation. I'm going to keep thinking about what you said, and I'm going to definitely go and watch it because
Yeah.
thank you, and thank you
You're
everyone.
welcome, darling. Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.